Raider Nation, what's going on? Today's Raiders Report is brought to you by our good friends, BetDSI. I got news, I got rumors, I got a lot on tap, and I even got a new segment for the people who are subscribers to the Oakland Raiders Report. So let's get into some Oakland Raiders news, and we're kicking it off with some breaking news that just came in before the show, and it's Donald Penn to the IR. So the Raiders are placing the starting right tackle on IR due to a groin injury. Penn went down in the middle of the game against the Browns this past Sunday. Now, rookie Brandon Parker, he's going to be called into action. The Raiders are going to need Parker and the rest of that offensive line to really step up. So, Raider Nation, I want to know from you guys, because I think Brandon Parker was a guy who I did like a lot when he was first coming out, and like when he came out in the draft. He's a guy from a small school, and he's a guy who, well, he doesn't have all too much experience. So I want to know from you, are you confident in Brandon Parker? He's got big shoes to fill with Penn, and sure, Penn might have been struggling here and there, but still, Penn is a reliable veteran, and that Raiders offensive line, I thought, did play pretty well against the Browns. But hey, are you confident in Brandon Parker? Please comment below. Raider Nation, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to the Raiders Report. You guys can follow me on Twitter at MitchellRens365, and please subscribe to the Oakland Raiders Report on YouTube. See that link down there, youtube.com/Raiders Report. We're trying to get that to 5,000, 10,000 subscribers, so tell your friends, tell everybody at Raider Nation Games, at Raider Games, hey, subscribe to this awesome YouTube channel, youtube.com/Raiders Report. The next news bit I got for you guys coming up here, it's Worley. He's returning week 5. So, Darryl, well, he's been out the first 4 weeks because he's been serving a suspension. And now he's back, and he practiced today, which is a good sign. That said, as of now, though, he still doesn't count towards the active roster. And, well, I don't know if he's going to be put on for this week necessarily, because he's still got to get acclimated, I think, with the defense all around. But I think ultimately he will be. Now, in terms of will he start, that still will be determined. He would probably fill in for a guy like Leon Hall, who has played, I'll say, okay here and there. But I think Worley ultimately is a young guy, 23. There's a reason why the Raiders traded for him this offseason. And, I mean, I think we can all agree it doesn't hurt to have extra cornerbacks and defensive backs on a team that just gave up 42 points to the Browns. The next news bit I got for you guys coming up here, it's Dwayne Harris. And this guy got an award, and I think it's cool when any Raider gets an award, and I want to give them a shout-out on my show. So, he won the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week because he was, well, I think really good for the Raiders this week when it came to just special teams play. He recorded 5 punt returns for 98 yards and also recorded 2 special teams tackles. He recorded a 49-yard punt return in the fourth quarter that led to a crucial Raiders field goal. That 49-yard return was the longest by a Raider since 2010. That was the longest punt return by a Raiders player since 2010. That's pretty mind-blowing to me. He also drew a crucial holding call in the first quarter that pushed the Browns back to their own 23-yard line. And I don't know if you remember, a few plays later, that led to Garyon Conley's pick 6. Raider Nation, thank you so much for tuning in to the Raiders Report, sponsored by BetDSI. If you guys are new to the show, you need to understand my Raider rumor scale. So, 0 Chucky heads, tuck rule, tuck that. This rumor is not going to happen. 1 Chucky head, small shred of truth, 25% chance of happening. 2 Chucky heads, people are talking 50-50. 3 Chucky heads, pretty likely 75% chance happening. And then 4 Chucky heads, believe it, baby, 100% this rumor is going to happen. All right, let's get into that first rumor. And the Raiders, they won because of the refs and the refs only. I'm going to give this one 0 Chucky heads, tuck rule, tuck that. And this one is from Hugh Jackson. Now, Hugh Jackson didn't flat out say the Raiders 100% won because of the officials. But he wasn't afraid to point the finger whatsoever at the officials. And he said that he wasn't satisfied with the officials, especially with that last, maybe not the last play of the game, but the Carlos Hyde first down run that was overturned. There's a minute 38 left on the clock. I'm sure you all know exactly what I'm talking about. Carlos Hyde picked up the first down, but then the Raiders, well, it was overturned. Next thing you know is a field goal. And the next thing you know, the Raiders go back down the field, they score. So, I want to know from you guys, did the Browns actually pick up the first down? You give me a Y for yes or an N for no. For me, I'm still going to say that the Browns didn't. There's a few different camera angles that you could go for, but I think the refs, they got it right. So, did the Browns pick up the first down? Y for yes or type N for no? Well, I want to give a shout-out to the refs if they did botch it, because guess what? I won over $50 on BetDSI this past week because I bet on the Raiders over-under, and I bet on the Raiders to win straight up. And you know where I did that at? At BetDSI. It's the best place to bet on sports games. It's the best place to play on anything, really, I think, for NFL, especially the Raiders. But chatsports.com/bet is where you're going to go. You're going to use that promo code LIVE120 for 120% deposit bonus. Check out BetDSI. There are good friends there. Chatsports.com/bet. The next rumor I got for you guys coming up here, Bruce Irvin. He played in under 50% of the snaps. Oh, boy. This one I was pretty surprised about when I first read, and ultimately it's one of those that, well, I think when you look at the entire game script, it's you can go back and look at it, but I'm going to give this one 4 Chucky heads because he did play in under 50% of the snaps, and he played in 46% of the snaps, and in Week 4 against the Browns, he only racked up 1 tackle. He did have a sack, which was good, but when you're looking at the other players in the game, like Key, Hurst, Rucker, they all played more snaps than Irvin, and Irvin was a guy who I think should be on the field a little bit more. Now, he does give it his very, very all on every single play. I'll give him that. But for a guy who I think you could consider to be one of our best defensive players, I think he needs to be on the field a little bit more than 50% of our defensive snaps. The next rumor is it's laughable to me, and it's the Raiders are going to draft a quarterback in the very first round. And this one's from CBS Sports, and I'm not really surprised, and I'm going to give this one, well, I guess I have to give it 1 Chucky head because, sure, there's at least a small chance that this is going to happen. But CBS, they released their mock draft for 2019, and they had the Raiders picking Justin Herbert 6th overall. The exact quote in the article is, with Bosa, Farrell, and Oliver off the board, the Raiders are going to target Justin Herbert to be the potential replacement for Derek Carr. Now, I think Herbert's having a great year. He's been on, a bunch of our shows for college football now as a potential Heisman candidate. I mean, the guy's 6'6", 233. He's I think a product he could be a good product in our offense, I guess I'll say. But ultimately, I don't think they're going to ultimately give up on Derek Carr right away. I mean, here's Justin Herbert's numbers. 1,411 yards, 16 total touchdowns, 14 passing, 2 rushing, and only 5 interceptions on an Oregon team that I think he ultimately does carry. Sorry, Lena. But I just don't think the Raiders are going to give up on Derek Carr quite yet. John Gruden loves Derek Carr, and Justin Herbert I just don't think is going to be the answer, especially at 6th overall. The next rumor I got coming up here for you guys, are the Raiders a bottom 5 team? I'm going to give this one. This one's a little bit of a mix for me. So ESPN, all these major companies, they brought out their power rankings, and they have the Raiders as a consensus bottom 5 team, and I just think that's 1 Chucky head, small shred of truth. So they are 1-3, I get it, and they are last in the AFC West, which I think is a pretty underrated division. But the Raiders have had a tough schedule thus far. Let's not forget that. I mean, they've played the Rams, they've played the Broncos. Heck, they played an undefeated Dolphins team at the time. So the Raiders, I think, are much better than 1-3. And if they wouldn't have had their bad collapses down at the end of the 4th quarter, this team could easily be 3-1. So do I think they're a bottom 5 team? I do not. All right, guys, I want to know from you, though, how many games will the Raiders win this season? The Raiders are 1-3. I've heard 10. I've heard 11. That's going to be a little bit tough for me. Right now, I'm just going to stick with my initial projection for the Raiders. It was 8 wins coming into the season. So how many games will the Raiders win this season? And if you guys could please comment below, that would be great. Because right now, again, they're sitting at 1-3. So, but hey guys, if you guys want to bet on the Raiders this year, this is where you're going to do it. You got to go to chatsports.com/bet. If you don't use that link, you're not going to get that 120% deposit bonus. And I challenge any of you to find a better deposit bonus on the internet. Use promo code LIVE120 when you go to chatsports.com/bet. Thanks to our good friends over at BetDSI. The next rumor I got for you guys coming up, it's Derek Carr, and is he about to break out? Is Derek Carr about to absolutely break out? I'm going to give this one 2 Chucky heads. People are talking, and when you look at Derek Carr, I think it's about to click. Like, it's about to click. This guy's been dealt with, I think, a lot of offensive coordinators. He's had a lot of change in his young career. This season, in 2018, 71% completion percentage. Drew Brees broke the NFL completion percentage record last year with 72. Sure, the 7 interceptions, that stings. But the 6 touchdowns, he's averaging over 300 passing yards a game. He's, I think, finally going to start to get comfortable in his new offense. And he's got a lot of talented players, and if Martavis Bryant doesn't drop that touchdown pass, his numbers look even better. But the issue with Carr, it's the interceptions. And right now he does lead the NFL in interceptions with 7. And you can see Andy Dalton and Case Keenum right there. They got 6 interceptions apiece as well. And then Matt Stafford's there at 5. If Derek Carr can just limit the interceptions, he's putting up great numbers. So if he can limit the mistakes, get a little bit more comfortable in that offense, I think that's when you're really going to see Derek Carr take that next step. Really just take that next step as a quarterback for the Raiders and really just be a better player ultimately. The Raiders are going to be able to rely on him a little bit more. The next Raider rumor I got for you guys coming up, it's Jared Cook. Now, you guys know that I love fantasy football, and is Jared Cook right now going to be the #1 fantasy football tight end by the end of the year? I'm going to give this one to Chucky heads. People are talking. And the reason why people are talking is because actually Jared Cook is the #1 fantasy football tight end. So if anybody drafted him, like me, you're pretty happy with his production. Last week against the Browns, 8 catches, 110 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And when you just look at his catches that he was making, they were clutch as heck. He leads all tight ends with 75 points, and right now he's on pace for 104 catches, 1,480 yards, and 8 touchdowns. These are his numbers straight up this year. 26 catches. The most receiving yards among all tight ends with 370. He leads the Raiders in receiving yards with 370, the 2 touchdowns, and then the yards per catch at 14.2. So, guys, I want to know from you. Over under 1,000 receiving yards for Jared Cook in 2018. He's never done it in his entire career. He's 30 years old, and like I've stated before, he's on pace. He's on pace for 1,480 yards. So, guys, type O for over or type U for under. 1,000 receiving yards for Jared Cook in 2018. Raider Nation, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And, guys, you guys need to subscribe to the new Raiders channel that we got, youtube.com/Raiders Report, because guess why? I started the new segment, and I made my own rumors around things that you guys have said in the comments. So my next 3 rumors are straight from y'all. And if you guys want to be on my segment that I'm going to do every single week, you have to subscribe to the new youtube.com/Raiders Report channel on YouTube. Make sense? You subscribe, you have a chance to come on the show. So first one is from my dude, Rick Grimes. This guy always hits me up on Twitter, and he dropped this one on my show last week in the comments section. And it's the Raiders. They're never going to win with Derek Carr. The Raiders are never going to win with Derek Carr. You know what, Rick? I understand your passion, and I love that you're always passionate, and you're always blowing up my DMs. But I'm giving this one 0 Chucky heads. Tuck rule, tuck that. Derek Carr, the Raiders are never going to win with him. I just don't believe it. He's having actually a pretty good year, minus the interceptions. And he just had a great game last week, over 400 yards, and he just rallied that team. This guy was a 2016 MVP candidate. And I think if we can get him, an offense that just stays the same for longer than a year, this guy can truly be special. Sure, he has his flaws here and there, and a career record that's not great at 29-37. But when you look at the constant turnover that this guy's had to deal with, I still think that the Raiders, if they have a centerpiece of offense around him, Derek Carr can get it going, and I still think the Raiders can potentially win something with Derek Carr. Nothing is, I think, tuck rule, tuck that. All right, the next one's coming in from Anthony Duke. And it's the Raiders have a chance for 10 wins this year. Anthony, I love the optimism, but I'm going to give this one only 2 Chucky heads, and that's just because 10 wins is a hard sell for me right now. So they're against the Chargers this week, and I'm more about the mindset. They got to win this week, right? You always have to win the very next game. The Chargers, they're sitting there at 2-2, and they barely scrape by against a weak 49ers team. Currently, the Raiders are sitting at 1-3, and they are dead last in the AFC West. And that means they're going to have to finish with 9-3. They're going to have to go 9-3 to get to 10 wins, and I just don't know if that's really going to be possible because they don't have the toughest schedule, but still, going 9-3 in the NFL is not an easy task. But hopefully, if the Raiders can get it going, hey, you never know. Guys, I want to give a shout-out to Mizzen and Maine because they are sponsoring also today's show, and they're helping us wear these awesome clothes here. And if you guys think that I look good on my show, I would definitely appreciate you guys going to www.comfortable.af. Check out these awesome shirts. They've got sweat wicking technology, so when you're sweating, people can't tell because guess what? I'm sweating right now. Y'all can't tell. Mizzen and Maine, www.comfortable.af. The next rumor I got coming up here on the board, it's from Town Business. Town Business with a Raider emoji there, or I guess an icon. Is that what that is? And it's Jordy Nelson shouldn't be playing. Jordy Nelson shouldn't be playing. I'm going to give this one 1 Chucky head. Small shred of truth. Now, I understand that he's 33, and it's his 11 years of NFL experience, and that you said in the comments that he shouldn't be a player, but he should be a coach. Now, I'm not going to disagree that he shouldn't be a coach because I think he really helps a lot of the young receivers out. But this year he's got 16 catches, 274 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But the last 2 weeks, I think he's really stepped up big and important plays and made a few clutch catches for us. But the last 2 weeks, 11 catches, 221 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for submitting those rumors. And if you guys want to get your rumors on the show, you guys have to subscribe to the Oakland Raiders Report on YouTube. Now, I went over my rumors, I went over my news, and I even hit up you guys on YouTube with your rumors as well. So now I'm going to get into my offensive and defensive grades from Week 4 against the Browns. And the first guy coming up is the guy we were just talking about. It's Jordy Nelson. Jordy last week, 6 catches, 48 yards, and 1 touchdown. And he made that clutch 2-point conversion catch to send it into overtime. My Week 4 grade for Jordy Nelson is an A. I think he played really well, and he made really clutch catches when it mattered the most. But the show isn't just about me, and I want to know from you guys. Please grade Jordy Nelson's Week 4 performance. If you guys think it's an A, type A. If you think it's B, type B. C, D, F, I would definitely be surprised. But grade Jordy Nelson's Week 4 performance. Please type in the comment section below. The next guy coming up was an absolute beast. An absolute beast, and he's been a beast all year. It's Marshawn Lynch. Against the Browns last week, 20 carries for 130 yards on the ground. He ripped off a beautiful 52-yard run, which really got the Raiders' mojo going a little bit. He's the guy who's setting the tone for the Raiders this season. He's just running really, really tough on the ground, and I absolutely love it. And this year, 68 carries, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's actually averaging 4.4 yards per carry, but still, 68 carries, 300 yards, and he scored 3 touchdowns those first 3 weeks. Marshawn's been an absolute beast, and he's really been able to take a lot of pressure off Derek Carr, and I think you've been able to see it those last few weeks. The last guy that I want to grade, and I can't give all good grades because then I don't think I'd be a very good teacher, it's Martavis Bryant. Martavis, 7 targets, 3 catches, 51 yards, and that horrible, horrible drop. He dropped like a 50-yard touchdown, and that was frustrating AF for me. So my Week 4 grade for a guy like Martavis is a D. It could easily, if he would have caught that touchdown, been a B or an A, but when you drop that bad of a touchdown, luckily the Raiders didn't lose the game because of it, but when you drop that blatant of a wide-open touchdown, you're going to get a bad grade from me. So, guys, I want to know from you, who was the Raiders' offensive MVP Week 4? Was it Derek Carr? Was it Marshawn Lynch? Was it Jordy Nelson? Who was the Raiders' offensive MVP Week 4? Please, 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 please comment below. Raider Nation, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to Raiders Report. And if you guys like what I'm wearing, I need you guys to go to Mizzen and Main. Go to www.comfortable.af and you guys can get your own shirts. Heck, they have shorts. They have unbelievable new stuff out for the fall. If you guys don't like dress shirts, they have flannels. All new stuff over at Mizzen and Main, www.comfortable.af, because their shirts are indeed comfortable as F. All right, now I'm going to get into my defensive grades. And the first guy coming up is friend of the show, Maurice Hurst. And last week against the Browns, he had a hell of a day. 4 tackles, 1 sack, and a forced fumble, and that sack and that forced fumble came at crucial points. He made several clutch plays against the Browns, and I think it was one of the reasons why the Raiders' defense actually started to play a little bit better down the stretch. So my Week 4 grade for Hurst is an A, and if you ask me, I think he was the best defensive player for the Raiders on the field last week. Next guy, another rookie, Arden Key. Now, 1 tackle, and he did have a stuff. But this is a guy who played in 61% of the snaps, and I think he was why a guy like Bruce Irvin looked super fresh at times, because you could keep Arden Key on the field, and he was just, sure, he didn't get to the quarterback, but Arden Key is a super athletic guy, and that's why I gave him a B, because I think he did ultimately play pretty well, especially playing 61% of the defensive snaps this early in his young career. Next guy coming up is a guy that I ripped a little bit last week, and it's Reggie Nelson. Reggie Nelson, I thought, struggled against the Dolphins, and I thought he played a little bit better this week against the Browns. 3 tackles, a pass breakup, and he did have a clutch interception, which is why I gave him the grade of a B. He did give up a touchdown, but he made plays when it mattered the most, and that's why I gave Reggie a B. So, guys, I want to know from you, who was the Raiders' defensive MVP Week 4? Was it Mo? Was it Arden Key? Was it Reggie Nelson? Was it somebody else that I didn't talk about? Who was the Raiders' defensive MVP for Week 4? All right, now I'm going to get out of my Week 4, and now we're going to head into Week 5 because, well, I want to look ahead of the future, and I want you guys to check out this awesome matchup that we got against the Chargers coming up here in Week 5. So the Raiders, like I said, they're going up against the Chargers in Week 5, and you guys should check this matchup out on BetDSI. The over-under right now for this game is 53.5 points, and the Chargers, they are the favorite at -5.5. The Raiders enter this game at 1-3. The Chargers are 2-2. Now, the Chargers barely beat the 49ers. Barely beat the 49ers, who I think are a much weaker team, and I think the Raiders would actually handle them pretty easily. So, with this game at the over-under 53.5 and the favorite at 5.5, you guys need to go to BetDSI and put your money where your mouth is. I know I did, and I won over $50 last week. So, I want you guys to predict the score, though, of the game. Raiders versus the Chargers. And if you guys predict it right, I'm going to give you guys $25 out of my pocket. Now, I can only give the money to one winner, okay? So you need to DM me on Twitter, slide in my DMs on Twitter, and give me the prediction of the score. And the first person who does it with the first right score, you're going to get $25 from your boy, me. All right, Guys, I need you guys to go to BetDSI. Go to chatsports.com/bet. You're going to use that promo code LIVE120 for 120% deposit bonus. I challenge you to find a better deposit bonus on the internet because guess what? You're not going to do it. And when it comes to betting on NFL games, BetDSI is the only place to do it. Chatsports.com/bet.